Hola y bienvenido al podcast de Torres Hospitality, donde entrevistamos a los mejores perfiles del sector turístico global, tanto en español como en inglés, para conocer de primera mano las tendencias, noticias, opiniones y debates sobre la actualidad, el presente y el futuro de la industria alojativa y turística. Soy Pablo Torres. Puedes seguirme en mi web www.torresconsulting.co.uk, plataformas de podcast, YouTube y redes sociales. ¡Arrancamos!
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Torres Hospitality Consulting Podcast, episode 113 of this series of interviews. Today with me, Steve Turk, who has more than 20 years of experience, mainly in the F&B area. He's worked with some of the top brands in the hospitality industry. He's the founder of Turk Hospitality Ventures and also founder of Biscayne Coffee. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on your show today.
My pleasure. Thanks for your time. As I was saying in the intro, more than 20 years working in the industry. And I usually start with the same question for all the guests in the show and also finish with the same question. First one is about the milestones of your career. So working some of the top brands in the hospitality industry, evolved, focus on F&B, you have your own company now. So what have been those milestones?
Well, I think it actually I'll give you the big picture. And it started really when I was 10 years old. I go back to when I was 10 because I was just there actually this past weekend at the Fontainebleau Miami Beach Hotel. So here, if you haven't been, if you don't know about it, it's the largest hotel in Miami and one of the most iconic. And my father was an attorney that represented that hotel, and he became best friends with the general manager. And so I always found myself as a child there as just like a magical place. You know, as a kid, you walk into hotels and you find it to be a magical place. And that just stuck in my head all this time. And so when I got to college, debating whether I was going to be a lawyer or what else I was going to do, I figured I want to go into hospitality. And that's what I fell in love with because I was doing that in high school. I was a pool attendant in the Loews Miami Beach Hotel kind of throughout my college time, got out and started at that hotel. So the Loews Miami Beach Hotel, a great hotel, 800 rooms, mega resort. And I really grew my career there, starting from pool attendant up to director of restaurants. But I'm a Miami guy, and I didn't want to leave like a lot of people do, and started venturing to other luxury hotels in Miami, kind of growing my career, working with people that I loved, and worked at the Mandarin Oriental, worked at Viceroy Hotels, worked for Trump Hotels, worked for Nobu Hotels, and then came full circle to where I got called back to be director of food and beverage at the Loews Miami Beach Hotel, where I started my career as a pool attendant. So that's really the journey of my 20 years compressed down of all the fun places I got to learn and grow from.
And then the last few years, you've launched your own company, Turk Hospitality Ventures. So what kind of service do you provide to the industry?
Well, look, Turk Hospitality Ventures is fun. So when people ask me what I do, I say, well, I'm a hospitality entrepreneur. We have a hospitality consulting company. I also am a partner in a vacation rental company called Tangy Management, where we manage 50 units here in Miami. So from single family homes to one bedrooms, and actually a boutique hotel we're about to take over. So that's exciting. And now we just launched a coffee too, which you can see over my shoulder here. So called Biscayne Coffee. So really staying in the world of hospitality, everything tying together. But it's very exciting. So in the consulting world, I just came from one of our clients. I helped them really improve their service so they can increase their revenues. And that's really the easy line. There's nothing magic about it. We look at your service, how we improve it, both team member and guest, so you can make more money.
Absolutely. And focusing on the coffee, I want to ask you about it, the Biscayne Coffee, which has a beautiful story behind it, right?
Yes. So Biscayne Coffee, it really came from, I live on the bay here in Miami. And in 2020, the bay got sick is the only way to say it. And there was a massive fish kill. There was dead fish everywhere, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fish, a dead manatee as well. A manatee, you don't really ever see them like that. And so I was with my two little kids and, they're 6 and 4 and they're asking, Dad, what's going on? I said, I don't know. It made me really sad. And I felt like I had to do something to help. And the next morning as I was having coffee, it just kind of hit me. I was like, hey, you're a food and beverage director. You can find great coffee and you give 10% back to help save the bay. And I worked on that, tweaking, because the coffee had to be good. I couldn't be putting out bad coffee, right? and it started to work. And so we launched it May 22nd and it hit. So we just got into a bunch of newspapers, news stories going out. We're going to be on TV hopefully soon, it looks like. So the people are attaching themselves to this story and the message behind the coffee.
Which is really nice, giving back to the community. And you also have your podcast, very popular, the Hospitality Mentor. So what is it about? What kind of content you create?
Well, it came from being in the hotels, right? And sometimes when you're starting out, I remember as a pool attendant, you look at the general manager as like, wow, this person is a superhero. They can run this little city. How did they get there? How did they get to that level in their career? How much money do they make? Right? Like all these things that you start thinking about as a young professional. And I didn't have those answers. So I really wanted to find a way to get, first off, more importantly, people's journeys, their story, because not everyone knows what it takes to get to that level and the sacrifices you have to make. And sometimes just being lucky. And the other was just to meet new people, right? Just like you and I are talking now, we probably wouldn't have ever talked if we didn't have our podcasts. So for me, it was exciting to do that. And I thought, I'd probably have one listener or two. Maybe I have 4 now, but it's been a fun journey just to meet so many inspiring people around the world doing that podcast.
Absolutely. Very, very true. So you were saying now you're coming from a client, helping them improve the service. And I want to ask you about that, and Turk Hospitality Ventures, what are the main challenges that clients come to you with?
It's interesting. So, every hotel has different challenges. And right now, with a shortage in talent and in labor, every hotel is stressed out. They know what they have to do, but sometimes just don't have the time to do those projects. So I have 2 clients just like that, where they just need help being creative, updating some of their programming, getting activities on the property, changing their menus because they don't have the time to do it. They don't have the bandwidth. But the client I came from today is reconcepting their entire breakfast experience because they have bad reviews. They're a global company and they depend on those scores. And so it's really going through what their goal is, what they want this to be like, and then bringing that 20 years of experience and the relationship with great vendors, relationships with local farms, relationship with local, food companies, to bring that experience to them because they are not from this area of the city. They've all come from different countries and it takes them a long time to ramp up to make those connections. So I come in, plug them into the best and get them up and running.
Okay, compressing a couple of ideas. Makes a lot of sense. And you were saying before with Tangy management, you run some alternative accommodation, let's put it short rental, but at the same time you have client hotels. So we've seen a massive growth of alternative accommodation in the last, especially since the pandemic, but for the last few years mainly. How do you see that? I don't know if there's a clash between traditional hotel and the new type of accommodation.
I'm excited to see what's happening because, I think you're like me. I enjoy hotel experience, but there are times that I want to have my own experience. I don't want to share it with everyone at a resort, fighting for a pool chair or paying for a cabana or doing those things. I enjoy those at certain times, but I think the vacation rental industry is going to start providing that more and more. Like I see it already with residences. So Ritz-Carlton residences, people want to live that experience. The St. Regis residences. Even Marriott has gotten into vacation rentals. I just don't think they've gotten it down the right way yet because they're really outsourcing a lot of it. They're not controlling fully the standards. But even the rest where I worked at Nobu, right? Nobu started as a restaurant. Now they're a hotel company. Now one of their hotels, they're testing it kind of like vacation rentals almost, right? In Malibu, it's really a 12-room vacation rental. To me, they call it a hotel, but it's really set up that way. So I see a lot more places that will start to get into that. And so I really am excited about vacation rental because I'm bringing that hotel experience to those vacation rentals. We're standardizing things. So if you check in, you know what you're going to get. Because a lot of places, everything looks different. Each place is different utensils, different plates, different linens, and consistency. And the whole team comes from hotels. Our whole team at Tangy comes from hotels. Victor, who's my partner, was the head of VIP services for a luxury hotel, and he's bringing that love and energy to every single guest that comes and stays with us. So that's where I see that we fit in, but I'm going to see it more and more. I bet Four Seasons will be there very soon. All the luxury hotels will start having places that you can stay in homes.
So it's kind of merging both different types of accommodation, right? Getting closer and finding the synergies, right?
Yeah, and I see it interesting too, like where fashion companies are now getting into hotels, right? Like Bulgari has their hotel. I saw Elle Magazine now has their hotel, right? Like a fashion magazine studying theirs. Like, I just think everything, whatever lifestyle you want to live, I think will start to pop up in the overall world of hospitality. Right. I could see some people, Gucci curating their vacation rentals and charging 30 grand a night to stay in the Gucci vacation rental on Lake Como in Italy. Right. Like, I could see these things starting to take shape.
Hashtag Gucci.
The new sponsor for your podcast.
For the social media. So technology, actually, I want to touch that point with you. It's a very hot topic. A lot of a lot of companies in the industry have put a lot of effort into into the digitalization, let's put it like that, implement more technology in the last few years. Is that a challenge in terms of service is there too much technology at a point, you think?
Well, I say like this, I was having this conversation this week. Not all technology is good, right? But if you find the right technology, it will make your life easier. But I think, especially in hotels, people are getting overwhelmed. You have to log into so many different systems, so many different apps just to run your day to day. I went back and was talking to a client that I work with. I have a hospitality technology client that I consult for. And I went through all the programs I had to use as a food and beverage director. It was 12 different things to operate the division, right? And then I talked to some other people and they're like, yeah, it might even be more. So I think the companies that are coming out and becoming more of like the central management, like we have Opera for rooms to control those things, and Agilis, some of the older things. Vacation rentals, I think, are a little bit further ahead in ease of service where I see, but I think the hospitality companies and operation systems need to make it where you can log in and do multiple things versus everyone having a certain niche, because then it's just too many things that don't talk to each other. The other part I see, it's really interesting, is robotics now getting into it. And this is like a very hot topic because you don't want to replace anybody. So the word everyone's using is to assist. But there's, in the United States, 300,000 hospitality jobs open right now, and they're not getting filled. So you have to find ways to be efficient. And I've seen it now where a company called Miso Robotics is doing back of house kitchen, where they're flipping burgers and frying French fries. They have them in Chipotle's now where they're making all the chips, right? I've seen a company called Bear Robotics here in Miami, and they're the food runner. So the chef puts the food on this little droid, looks like out of Star Wars. It knows where the table is. It avoids people, gets to the table, server takes it off, a sensor goes off, and it goes back to the kitchen. So it's helping fill in that service staff that is really kind of stressed out. They don't have to run back and forth to the kitchen, stay on the floor. And then there's one in May called Maker Shaker that has been open for a while, but now they figured out how to shrink their robotic bartender. So they've been on Royal Caribbean cruise ships for a long time as this mega experience. But now they're much smaller and you can put it in any bar. So, the old school hoteliers will say, we don't want any of that. But I think you're going to see it a lot in the back of house, right? Where the guests don't see it.
Yeah, I was discussing the other day with Sarah Murray, saying that maybe, if you don't want to influence the service, make sure that you invest in technology in the back office. So you can still continue providing that face-to-face service.
Right? Because you don't know who's frying your fries or flipping that burger. You still have the chef finishing things off to his standard and to his recipe. But I just think there's companies that are starting to embrace it faster than others. And I just don't think that it's going to go back to what it used to be 2 years ago. Like when I had multiple layers of management, multiple layers of staff, those jobs I don't think will come back, and we'll have to figure out how to make the team more efficient, because you don't want them to stress out and leave. So technology is the way to do it. It's just making sure you pick the right technology, because there's a lot of people jumping in that have never worked in hospitality and don't know how to build the tools that we need.
True. That's a very good point. And you mentioned about staff leaving, and it's been happening a lot. The Great Resignation is called in the US, and it's happening globally. It's very, very challenging to find talent. So what can be done? What's the solution besides pay them more, as Biden was saying? Is there any other solution than raising salaries?
Well, look, I think it's a mix of things. One, salaries will have to get done. Like, my job that I left, I left with big notice, right? I gave them a big leeway of notice, 3 months, which is a long time to let someone know. And that job still hasn't been filled. And it's been almost a year, right? And it's not that it's a low paying job. It's a high paying 6-figure executive role, but it's hard to find people to take those roles. So it's not just pay. I think it's also that magic mix of pay, flexibility, and time. Because I think a lot of us learned on our COVID vacation, like I like to call it, that we like spending time with our family and we like being able to be home on a holiday if we can, right? Which was not the case in the old school hospitality, right? It was always, we work when people vacation and we vacation when people work. So I don't think the new generation coming up wants that. They want the flexibility of when and how they can work. And then really the training. I've seen a lot of training stop. And that was something beneficial to me coming up, was a lot of money invested in training, a lot of time learning how to deal things, learning the Forbes standards, learning how to deal with angry guests, how to deal with team members, right? All these things that companies used to do don't have the people to be able to do it. So I see a lot of people, like, I don't really specialize in training, but there's other consultants that specialize in training that come from hotels. I think that they should be used more to create that, because without that, you don't have a culture in the hotel. So if you're not getting paid well, it's not flexible schedule, there's no culture or learning, why would you do that job versus another? Yeah. And so the companies that are figuring that out are going to start getting people back. Because I've seen it now, right? Some of the hotels that are doing it well, especially around here, they're gaining traction again. Like, they're starting to keep their team in place. They're starting to get people out of college to come to their company versus them going to be a customer service agent or customer service manager at Amazon. I've seen a lot of that here. Amazon taking a lot of the hotel talent.
Yeah, logistics, yeah.
So it's not going to be easy. It's that mix of whoever finds that magic bullet of money, culture, and flexibility is going to win.
Yeah, I've seen an interview the other day at the CNN with the CEO of Accor Hotel, for example, Richard Quest, and the CEO was saying that mainly the main point was flexibility. You need to understand, as a hotel manager or outlet manager, instead of having somebody working 5 days a week, you might have one working 1.5 days, one working 2 days, because might have another gig or doing something else on the side, and might not want to commit to a full-time job anymore.
Right.
That's what it is.
Well, there's a hotel, I don't think I can use their name, but it's a luxury hotel. And they have figured out an interesting solution, right? Where they have managers. This was unheard of. Managers working 2 to 3 days a week. Okay. But they've just they cut back the pay a little bit and stepped up how many more managers they have. Okay. And it seems to be working fairly well. So I'm curious to see how long that will last, because usually managers and, junior kind of executive level, you want full-time all the time.
Yeah, super cool.
But they have high level experienced people that have side gigs and just don't want to get back in full time. So they're putting in 2-3 days at these hotels. So that might be a new way of looking at things. So we'll see.
Interesting. Exactly. Let's see. Last question I have, and it's always the same question for everyone in the show. It's about, well, you have your own podcast called the Hospitality Mentor. So pulling from there, let's say you have in front of you a bunch of kids, 18, 19, considering going to college hospitality, or maybe not. So how will you sell it? How will you make it sound like it's the right industry for them?
Well, I would tell them this, is you are going to be exposed to so many different people and cultures that you never would have met going into a regular office job or sitting in a cubicle. The world of hospitality opens up doors that you'll never know about. One, if you work for great companies, that's what I always try to tell them, is try to stay in the top level companies when you start, because you're really going to learn and hopefully now be trained on what it is to be a true hotelier or a great vacation rental manager, or, there's so many different things now, great restaurateur. But I would say if you can get into a hotel, especially a large one, because you're going to open your eyes to so many different departments, so many different ways of doing things, that your life will just be better. because you'll know about those things, right? It's not going to be a secret world to you. But two, it's the only industry I've seen that you may not need a master's. You may not need that college degree to truly move up quickly. Like if you can prove that you are a good person, that you have a good attitude and you work hard, that's like 90% of the job. And if you can throw in a little bit of creativity and initiative on that 10%, you will be a six-figure executive really within 8 to 10 years, right? And so it's the only industry I've seen that you could do it in. You know, I'm not talking about Mark Zuckerberg and any of the startups that get their funding, but in a true career, I have never seen a place where people from other countries, people who immigrate to a different country can get their foot in a place, really prove themselves, and within a short period of time, have a great career on them. And so I'm always thankful to everyone in every hotel I've worked at, because I've learned so many things, met so many people, doing so many different things. Your network just grows exponentially.
Brilliant. Okay, so hopefully it'll be inspirational for whomever all these kids that listen to the show.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll see. I can just tell them that I've had so much fun being in hospitality. It's been an industry where it just doesn't compete, especially if you're in a major city at a major hotel. It's just the most fun to be in.
The thing is, like sometimes that people who are not in the industry or not yet, they don't realize the large array of different roles and jobs that you can have. So from F&B to law, for example, you were mentioning before, IT, sales. I mean, it's just sometimes I think that the challenge that is seen only like, oh yeah, waiters and receptionists. It's so much more. There's an endless number of different roles that you can have. And as you were saying, it's relatively easy to switch between roles and test and prove, you know, what you like, where's your passion in there.
Yeah, you can find it quickly. I mean, look, I look at the last hotel I was in, that in my current role, I've built up a team. I have a social media manager that helps me. She came from a hotel I worked at. I have a PR director. She was vice president at another hotel company I worked at. I have someone helping us with blogs and things like that. She was just a social media intern, right? So you never think about that in a hotel, but you have this PR, social media, sales, revenue generation, VIP service. There's so many different worlds and little micro worlds in a large hotel company that you can really find your niche. And I tell people out there, like when I first started, the Cooking Network showed up, right? And the Food Channel. And we were hosting all these famous chefs like Bobby Flay and Guy Fieri and, you know, you name them, they were at our hotel. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a famous chef. I was probably, I don't know, 20. And so I asked the chef, hey, can I work in the kitchen for 2 weeks? And he put me on the grill the first 2 weeks, and I've never hated life more, sweating on there. I said, never again will I work in a kitchen. But I got to test that there instead of having to quit and go work somewhere else, right? So that's the great thing about working in that world of hotels.
True. Completely agree with you. Okay, that's all the questions I have for you, Steve. So again, thank you very much. Turk Hospitality Ventures, helping hotels with their services. We have Tangy Management, which is about alternative accommodation, and Biscayne Bay, the latest project, helping the community and the bay where you live. Again, Steve, thanks very much for your time. Speak soon.
Thank you so much for having me. And if anybody wants to connect with me, LinkedIn is probably the best place you can find me, Steve Turk there. Happy to answer any questions any of you have.
That was all for now. Hope you found it useful. Remember that you have more information on our website www.torresconsulting.co.uk, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and Twitter. Stay well. Goodbye for now.